Oh, that's me.
Oh, this is,
These are the minutes from that last
oh,
meeting.
yeah,
Both of them, the special meeting and the regular meeting.
yeah. Okay, don't artichoke.
How you doing? Good, how are you?
The minutes that we had, was the date right on them? The January the 8th, was that January the 8th?
Okay, so all we should have then is the 14th.
All they're voting on is the 14th.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
We're streaming and recording.
So what you, well, I have booked those from 8. What do you have in your book?
In a heartbeat. In a heartbeat.
January the 8th.
January the 8th. You have 14th?
Yeah, we just handed us that.
No, unfortunately, I never did. You did? Well, I
Well, there's a couple of theories, you know, at first I thought it was a virus.
yeah.
And Kevin said it's powerful in the body. She said they don't seem to help with that. And they found like a single file, a single individual.
Did they take him back to Birmingham? Okay. Well, I called down there to talk to him. His daughter, I guess it was his daughter, answered the phone. And, I thought, he was just checking, just telling me what I thought about him. And I didn't want to, put him on the phone or anything. Well, Randy Gardner called me and told me that I didn't realize he was
Put it in the PC folder.
He was in the nursing home.
They were trying to keep him for they've seen him back.
Well, Randy called and told me, said, if you want to talk to him, you better do it now.
You already get started?
Whatever you want, you got the gavel, hang it on the table.
We can start now.
David's here.
Morning.
If you would, please stand with us as we say the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for another opportunity to be here, Lord, and to represent the citizens of Walton County. Pray that you'll just lead us and guide us and give us the wisdom to make the decisions as they should be made in the best interest of the county and the people who live here. Pray that you do this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, we'll open the meeting. First item would be approval of the minutes from the January 14th special meeting.
I move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Second.
Motion carries. I'd like to remind everybody real quick, if you haven't, please silence your cell phones. And we'll move on to announcements. Mac, you got anything?
Yes, sir.
We have a request to continue item number 2 on our agenda, the first quasi-judicial item, the Midgrove Center PUD, in the event anyone is here in the audience waiting for that particular project.
Okay. We need a motion for that.
I make a motion to continue to March 12th meeting here and time certain.
Second.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Anything else, Matt?
No, sir.
Okay, we'll jump right into legislative items. Item number 1.
Good evening, Commissioners. Matt Carpenter for the Planning Department. This is a proposed amendment to both Chapter 7 and Chapter 13, where our sign code resides in the Land Development Code. And essentially what this amendment does, it authorizes an additional type of sign beyond the kinds of signs that are presently authorized, which are ground signs and building signs. In the event we have a transit plan, a route that's been approved that will actually provide transit, we will be able to permit signs. So if we don't have a transit plan approved, this will have no effect other than if we ever do, we'll be able to permit signs, so you'll know exactly where the transit vehicle is going to stop. It addresses both on our signage that would be placed on private property at a transit stop on a private development, or in the event the BCC approves a transit stop on public property, we'd be able to put one on public property for the convenience of the riding public.
Matt, can I ask you where this was advertised?
Where this was
Where
advertised?
was this advertised?
I think this was advertised twice. Once in the Northwest Florida Daily News and once in the Dominion Herald.
Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Matt, on page 12 of 71, and also when it applies to chapter 13 as well, you have under the prohibited signs an exception for this sign. It seems rather redundant to me to add that language in there because we don't have any other exceptions to prohibited signs, whereas it would be every other sign that's allowed by the county. Is there any specific reason why?
To clarify that this is not an off-premise sign for the purposes of prohibition.
It doesn't seem to make much sense to me. I mean, it's just language that seems redundant in both places. I mean, otherwise it'd be all kinds of exceptions to what are prohibited signs out here.
Well, in this particular case, we're asking for one particular exception. And I put that in there just out of an abundance of caution for clarification.
Same thing in chapter 13, and I saw that as well. I mean, if it's allowed, in the very next paragraph you have in there that they're allowed, I don't see why it's necessary to be an exception. I'd have to ask counsel. It seems to be redundant to me.
It probably is, but to be honest with you, it comes up a lot in DRB hearings, whether a particular off-premise sign would be allowed. So I think it was just an attempt to make sure that it was clear that, though redundant, it is an exception to the ordinance.
Could you give me which section that was in?
Yeah, that's F in chapter 7. It's F2, page 12 of 71, the exception, and 13.
Wait. And where?
Same thing, same language in 13.
Chapter 13.
Yeah, that's under 13H, Henry, also paragraph 2. Because then the language spells out further in that same paragraph what's allowed. So, that's just my opinion.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, one other, page 66 of 71. There's no exhibit in my package for what a transit stop.
And we don't have an exhibit to present tonight, but what I would ask you to do is approve this conditional that we provide that transit stop sign before we get to the BCC. It's described in here, we just don't have a picture of it. And there will be at least two pictures, one that would be an example of one that would be post-mounted, and another one would be an example of one that would be building mounted, if it would be appropriate to mount one on a building as opposed to a post, depending on the geography of that particular transit stop. And the other scenario would be one mounted on an actual transit shelter, which is the more traditional bus stop that you would see.
Okay.
And one last thing. Regarding the maps that were indicating, there were no changes to any of the maps, were there?
No. The only, what I did was, yes, the only changes are the ones that are in the highlighted blue. I included the entire Chapter 7 and the entire Chapter 13 for the benefit of those people that update our code.
Regarding Churchill Bayou, it was included in a new roadway. It's not included in any of the scenic corridors, is it?
Don't think it is.
Nothing that travels east-west,
No.
except,
Our scenic corridor connectors are the north-south 393, 83, 283, 395.
Just wanted to make sure there wasn't anything.
Yeah, there are no changes to the maps. They're merely included because we included the entire chapter.
Is that all? Susan?
Mark, does the county have the funds set aside in the budget to do transit?
Commissioner, I don't know. I don't know the answer to
I
that.
think this is just
I really don't.
just in case and to prepare for if it comes up.
The only reason I'm asking is I got a phone call today asking me would I be opposed as a vet tax collector to them using the vet tax money. Oh, well, I don't know. So if it's vet tax money, I just wondered if the county were doing this, private business was doing this, TDC's doing it, who's doing the transit?
Commissioner, I don't know. I don't know. I haven't been asked that.
If I could, Commissioner, I don't think we know for this season yet who's going to be providing it, or if for sure there really will be one. It may be some combination of TDC, county, and private. It may be entirely private.
I think this is
But this, whether it's private or not, or public,
Yes,
this
getting
would provide
ahead
an
of,
opportunity to identify where the stops are.
getting
and
ahead.
provide some
It's
signage.
getting ahead of the game, that's all it is, it's just pre-planning.
We're just getting prepared.
If it comes up, we don't have to worry about it, it's already in place.
Just to explain, so,
And there is no transit map plan yet.
to answer your question, the way it was explained to me is that, if I'm not mistaken, the parking study that they paid for along the beaches, it was one of the recommended alternatives was to have off-site or off 30A or off beach access parking areas, and the transit option was one of the ways to service off-site parking to bring people down to the beach park.
But we haven't got any outside parking yet.
No,
No.
it's just a process.
I think this is-
To get us to that place.
Yeah.
So we're not working backwards this time. We're actually.
Doing,
Yeah, I think it's a great.
Well, you're not
idea
used
to
to
go
this
ahead and
because we're
pre-plan.
actually planning.
yeah,
Get it in place.
good idea to get her done. Anything else? You have a motion? Oh, public comment. Anybody? There's no one signed up, so. Yeah, there's Ms.
My name's
Nielsen.
Mary Nielsen, and I do own property on South 393, adjacent to the 393 county right-of-way. I don't know where this was advertised, but this is the Defuniak Herald dated February 5th, and this is the ad for the notice of the public hearing for this meeting tonight, and nowhere in this ad is this advertised. So when on the paperwork here, it says public comment. No public comments have been received. I don't think people on 30A even have a clue that this is coming up tonight. And since you're talking about private property, I find this to be a challenge, how this meeting is taking place when this advertisement does not include this topic on it. And the only reason I found this is I happened to come over here the other day, a few days ago, and I found it in the notebook laying up there. And I asked Carrie to send it to me, and she was kind enough to send it to me. So the other people, this room might be full of people if they knew that this topic was going to address private property and where this would be. So the cart is before the horse, and whether you call this planning or not, who is in charge of designing where the stops are? Who's in charge of designing if there's going to be huts and shelters? Now, if you came along and your engineer said, oh, I think it would be nice in front of Mary's property down there on 393, and we think there should be a shelter. I don't think so.
That's what the card.
Yes.
Okay,
That's-
but this is the precursor. So my question to you is, does anybody in this county know that this topic is a public or an ordinance, a change of the land development code? And I don't think anybody knows about it. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to have staff answer that. If
Yeah.
it's not been properly advertised, I think we need to continue it.
It was advertised in the Northwest Florida Daily News.
What dates?
It was advertised in the Saturday, January 31st newspaper.
Or ask our attorney, does that fulfill the legal requirement, not in advertising it once or twice?
I'm gonna have to go look at the code real quick. I don't know what's going on.
think this needs to be continued.
It must be advertised 10 days in advance of the,
Yeah, but is it once or twice?
it has to be, I don't believe it has to be advertised twice, it has to be advertised 10 days.
Why don't we defer, then we'll come back.
Yeah.
Let me just check the code real quick. And we'll get to the end and come back to it.
We'll just, okay.
Any objection to deferring that for decision on look up the code hearing?
No, we can defer it. Okay.
Here's the code reference. If I could read from chapter 10.03.02. Notice publication. Publication of the notice shall be generally as follows. Except as provided in paragraphs 2 and 3 below, notice of all public hearings and appeals from a decision, order, requirement, or determination of an administrative officer or board of the county shall be properly advertised in a newspaper of general circulation not more than 30 days nor less than 10 days before the date of the hearing.
The date was what?
January 31st is what I heard. Is that correct?
Amendments to the text of this code. An amendment to the text of this code shall require public hearing and publication of notice as follows. The Board of County Commissioners shall hold 2 advertised public hearings on the proposed ordinance. At least 1 hearing shall be held after 5 p.m. on a weekday. First hearing shall be held approximately 10 days after the date first advertisement is published. Second hearing shall be held at least 2 weeks after the first hearing and shall be advertised approximately 10 days prior to the public hearing. Date, time, and place which the second public hearing will be held shall be announced at the first public hearing. We have 1 10-day advertising requirement for this meeting in a newspaper of general circulation.
And the Daily News is
Satisfies that requirement. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
Was it posted anywhere on our website for the public? As far as what meetings are coming up, and was the ordinance included on the website?
On the agenda.
Yeah, for our agenda.
We have a calendar on the Walton County website which lists all county meetings, planning commission, board of county commissioners, design review board, zoning board, adjustment code board. We have a public copy in the north office and the south office for display 1 week prior to the meeting. The planning commission, right now the VCC is the only thing that the materials are actually on the website. We have not progressed to all the other meetings being loaded on the website in advance of the meetings. But the agenda's there a week before, and the materials are available at our counter, or they can call and we can email them anything.
So those requirements have been met.
yes, sir.
Okay. Any other? Yes, sir.
Don Riley. While the requirements may have been met in certain respects, I think personally that it is entirely misleading to the public to have the most recent publication of tonight's agenda in a public notice, which does not include this or any other matter for that matter. I don't have a particular dog in the hunt, but I think that procedurally we ought to consider this tonight when it was explicitly not present in a legal notice in the paper within the last week would be a serious miscarriage of your responsibilities. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else?
Yeah, I have one other question for Sam. Anybody, what date was the FUNIAC paper advertisement for our agenda?
That ad ran in the January 29th and February 5th FUNIAC Herald.
So what I'm making a point here is that it ran after On the one on January 31st was proper and legal, but the one that ran after it said that it wasn't on the agenda. And therefore, if the public, in chronological order, were following all the notices possible, they might think that the agenda had been changed and that item removed. If that's not the case, it was advertised on the 5th without this item in the agenda.
The ad for the 5th had already gone to the paper on the 22nd of January prior to.
I mean, I don't know about that, I don't care about that.
Mr. Chairman?
When it was printed and when it was showing. and
Yes, sir.
it showed-
Can I suggest we continue this item to the
Sure.
next meeting? And we'll
It's not
make
a
sure.
pressing item anyway, it's something we can take up, but.
Well,
something
other
to say.
than we're just trying to get this stuff in place in the event that transit actually happens for this season.
Correct.
But I certainly defer to the board, and we'll make sure that we have the proper advertising. And I'll request you continue it to the next meeting.
Okay. We have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion that we continue this particular item to the next scheduled planning commission meeting for March at a time certain.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor? Motion carries.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just clarify for the members of our audience, this proposed change does not identify any specific location for a transit stop sign. A transit plan would do that. So we're not proposing to put up any signs anywhere at this point. We're merely prepping the code for that opportunity if we get the opportunity to have transit.
Right, this is saying what the signs will look like when they're designed. Okay. Number, about this item? This item's over.
I have a question about the present ordinance. Does it identify how you will pick the future?
No,
There's
there's nothing.
There's nothing in there,
about the
no.
transit plan
at
at
all that says how
all.
it will be picked.
Nothing.
That item's done. It's been postponed. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item number 3.
Jeff, could we ask that from now on, they put a copy of the advertisements in our notebook?
A copy of the actual advertisement?
A copy, I mean, I'm sure they, once they send it in, if she cut it out, she'd realize that she was missing something, and then we'd get it in the next time. I'd just like to have a copy of the
I do
ads.
not get proof of publication until the day before the meeting, sometimes the day after, from the newspaper, so I won't have proof of publication.
You just get a copy of the notice that you sent to the newspaper?
The notice I sent to the paper, I have, the one that I emailed to the paper, but you were saying cutouts. I don't get the tear sheets from the paper until usually the day of the meeting or sometimes the day after.
So if you place an ad in January, you don't know what the ad said? Don't we take the paper here? Doesn't the county don't y'all get a paper, it's planning thing? That you just open it up and be sure that the advertisement in it was right?
Yes, we get one copy of the paper.
Well, couldn't we just, somebody in the.
We can provide you copies of the ads
We'll
prior
get
to
a
the
copy of
meeting.
the ad. Thank you.
Thank you.
On to item number 3. You need to swear everybody?
Oh, yeah. Anyone who anticipates testifying regarding any quasi-judicial item on the tonight's docket, please stand and raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give before this board will be the truth? Thank you. Does anyone have any, speaking of notices, any particular objections to any of the notices that were mailed or provided for tonight's quasi-judicial meetings? Hearing none. Commissioners, if you had any ex parte contacts regarding any item on the quasi-judicial
No.
docket? I hear all no's. It's all yours, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, Tim Brown with the Planning Department. The next item is the landing. This is a major development order application submitted by ECM requesting approval to add 625 square feet of outdoor seating area on 4.42 acres of the future land use of VMU. It's located at 4546 US Highway 98 West in Santa Rosa Beach. This is VKI Restaurant. They're in the Landing Shopping Center at the corner of Musset Bayou and US Highway 98. They want to add some outdoor seating, which will be open with a fence around it, It won't be enclosed, but it will have a fence around it. They're taking out 2 parking spaces in order to put that outdoor seating, and they're relocating them elsewhere in the center. It's a major development because it's in the US Highway 98 scenic corridor. Typically, 625 square feet would be a minor or even a less than minor, but because it's in the scenic corridor, that automatically makes it a major development. Mr. Chairman, that's all I have. I'll answer any questions the board may have.
Board have any questions for staff?
For a couple of was this, has a design review board seen this?
Yes, they've.
And their vote on it was?
It's in here. I think it was 4-0.
5-0.
5-0.
To approve?
Yes, they heard it on August 7th, 2014. It took this long to get to here because they had to address conditions. They had 3 conditions from the design review board.
When you reviewed their parking plan, and the parking plan is still more than adequate, isn't it?
Well, it's right at the limit. It's at the minimum of what's required for that shopping center.
Given potential uses, right?
Well, given the size.
Yeah.
For a shopping center, it's 1 per 200. They meet that, but they don't exceed it. They meet it. You're welcome.
Any other questions for staff?
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner?
Daryl Barnhill with ECM Engineers. I've provided a artist rendering of the proposed canopy. I don't know, do you have that in your packet? You do not have that in your packet? Let me pass that out there. As mentioned earlier, the Design Review Board did approve this project unanimously with conditions. We have met those conditions. As of the date, there's currently no outstanding issues on this project. So we ask that you accept the staff's recommendation as per the first page of your staff report to approve the project as submitted.
Daryl, do you want this picture included?
Yes, the picture's included.
What number would we be up to? C1. Okay, Mr. Chairman, you accept.
So we, like I said, we have got planning department approval with no conditions and DRB approval. The conditions have been met, so there's no outstanding issues on this project.
And how many people will this seat?
I don't know exactly. So we're doing 625 square feet. I don't know exactly the seating.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
thank you. Any public comment? Alan Ferreira? No? No other public comment? We close the public hearing on this item. We have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. On to number 4. Staff?
Good evening, Brian Underwood, Planning and Development Services. This is a major development order application submitted by ECM requesting approval to construct a 7,500 square foot warehouse with a 250 square foot office and bathroom on approximately a half acre with future land use of light industrial. The project is located north of the intersection of Highway 98 and Goldsby Road on the south side of Commercial Parkway. This is in the Coastal Business Center. It's Lot 9, as recorded in Walton County Plat Book 15, page 10 and 10A. There are no known code violations at the subject property. Unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, the proposed project will be consistent with the Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code when the conditions stated below are met. All necessary permits must be obtained prior to initiation of construction, and access must be maintained to the stormwater management facility to provide treatment by the South Walton Mosquito Control District. There is a proportional fair share payment amount of $7,480 that would be required to meet concurrency. And Mr. Barnhill is here to represent the owner.
Yes, sir.
Please have one question, Stan. Is the South Walton Mosquito Control District agreement to provide treatment written, requires to be a written agreement?
I'm not aware of that. It may be, Mr. Barnhill may be able to address that.
I'll have that question. And because stormwater is running into that, or that's the pop-off in the mosquito control?
Correct.
That's my question.
On the south side of the development site.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? Okay. Mr. Barnhill?
Mr. Chairman, this is the simplest project I've had in 3 years. We're building a commercial building inside of an industrial park. All the stormwater issues, the issue with the fire department, that issue was addressed by virtue of our latest submittal on the site plan, showing access by virtue of our parking lot to any adjacent swales that are around it. So we have addressed that with the fire department. So to my knowledge, there's no other outstanding issues with the exception of the proportional fair share prior to obtaining a building permit.
Let me ask the question to you again.
Yes, sir.
Is the providing treatment by the Mosquito Control District a written agreement between you and the developer or the subdivision?
I don't know the answer to that.
Condition
There.
on our report,
The-
you just stated or testified that all conditions have been met.
We have met that condition by our last submittal that provided access to the mosquito control district of any adjacent swales, and that's what they requested. So we have provided that by virtue of our parking. They insisted they were able to get to the swales through our parking lot, and so we provided that. But they've not requested any written easements or conditions to that effect.
My question after that would be follow-up. It's not in writing then the site is not proposed or will never be fenced and locked off so that mosquito control can't access it for the safety of the neighbors and the health and welfare of the county residents?
If you would like to include that in your motion, that's fine with us because we don't have any intention of doing any fencing out there.
I
So,
just want to be sure there's a
sure.
written agreement. I mean, typically like the power companies, you have access.
Sure.
There's a lock on a lock and they just have a key to it if they need access.
So it's certainly okay with the applicant if you want to include that, to exclude any fencing that would prevent access to the mosquito control because there's no plan to fence it anyway.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Barnhill?
Thank you.
Yeah, I've got one. Where is the mosquito control ditch on this thing? I don't see it.
There's not a mosquito control ditch out there. We're surrounded by retention swales and ponds, but there's not. That's a standard comment that the mosquito control district has put on all the projects, that they maintain access to the site where we have another 22 inches of rain like we had last year. They can get to the site and treat the swales that would be holding water. So that's a condition they've put on every project we've done in the last 2 years.
Very good. Any other questions? Any public comment? Alan? Nope. Okay. Close the public portion of the hearing.
One comment, the reason I brought this to attention is because it was a commercial site, industrial. And typically they're fenced to keep products and stuff that they store outside. And I just wanted to be sure that if it was going to be like that, the written requirement would be argued. It's not like subdivisions that you do where the retention ponds are open to the public in those subdivisions.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
A second?
With conditions?
With conditions?
Sorry. Yes, with conditions.
Okay.
Sorry.
Second.
A motion and a second?
And the condition is that
The conditions?
Says what, David?
Just that there be a written agreement with the mosquito control district that they'll, or with the developer of mosquito control that they'll provide written access or they'll provide access if the property isn't ever fenced.
Okay, with the condition that there is an agreement?
Yeah. Between mosquito control and developer, that if the property's ever fenced,
This would be in addition to the conditions the planning department's recommending on the bottom of page 7 of 8.
you have the condition that there be an agreement between mosquito control, but you don't have it in writing. I just prefer it to be in writing.
But we're proposing a development order condition that access be maintained.
That'll work.
That's on the bottom of page 7 of 8.
We don't need the additional condition then, right?
Okay, so with staff conditions?
That'll work.
Thank you.
With staff conditions?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Lee. Motion carries. Move on to item number 5.
Good evening. Tim Whaler with the Planning Department. This is item number 5, Siboney Phase 2. This is a major development order application submitted by Saxon LaSour. They're requesting the approval of a 11-lot single-family subdivision on 1.87 acres in the Siboney planned unit development with the future land use of neighborhood infill. The project is located at the west end of Bachelor's Button Drive, 300 feet west of South Holiday Road. The Siboney PUD was approved on November 26 of 1996 for 60 condominium units, 11 townhomes, 28 RV spaces, and future commercial use. There was a subsequent major development order issued on February 18th of 1997, and that DO was for 71 multifamily units, the 28 RV parking spaces, and 1,799 square feet of commercial. On May 11th of 2006, Siboney PUD Phase 2 minor development order was issued, and that development order converted the unbuilt 11 townhomes from the original approval to single-family homes for this location. That development order from 2006 did expire May 11 of 2011 after all of the extension opportunities were exhausted for the project. So the project for you tonight is very similar to that of 2006 approval in terms of density and intensity. But this has been reviewed for, obviously, the code as it exists today, so there were some minor changes that were done to the 2006. So that was just to give you a background of the history of this parcel. Let's see where I am. But the applicant is not requesting any variations to the LDC with this portion of the PUD. It meets all the requirements in the Land Development Code. And unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, the proposed project will meet the requirements of the Walton County Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code with the following conditions. Environmental has requested that they get a copy of the NPDS permit when they submit it. There's also a sidewalk buyout fee for one side of the proposed residential street, and there's also the recreational lands buyout fee of 6% that'll be due at the time of platting.
Okay. Yes, sir?
This is a new application because of...
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My package does not have compatibility analysis in it. And according to comprehensive plan and development code, all infill projects require compatibility analysis. Could you tell me why there's not one included in my package?
Compatibility analysis was not included based on this being a portion of a previously approved PUD.
It's new. You have a new application.
This portion of the PUD, yes, it is a new application for this portion.
I think the requirements require it to have a compatibility analysis.
This one has a final order from the VCC that included a compatibility analysis that has not expired. But all the technical details of this project did expire in the development order. We did not go back and re-review compatibility because it had already been established when the final order was originally issued. So the 11 units had already been approved as far as the density.
And you're saying that nothing in the neighborhood has changed since 2011? Is that what you're telling me?
There have been no significant changes in this particular neighborhood.
Exactly the same compatibility as it would be today as it was 4 years ago?
Possibly more built out than it was before.
Possibly not. I don't know, because I'm not looking at one. And I think that personally, I don't care one way or the other how it goes, but if it's a new project and it requires a major development order, we're supposed to have a compatibility analysis on input.
It had already been established under the final order issued by the BCC, and we did not re-review that.
So
We were not required
the
to.
compatibility is still valid.
Right.
And these 11 lots are part of a big PUD, correct?
Correct.
So the PUD still is in effect, this is just one section?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Okay.
This piece of property is next to a bunch of FEMA trailers that have been brought in and put into a large lot. And the FEMA trailers are being rented as rental units. And I've been to the property. And it's next to one that we approved before that I talked about. I waited out in my rubber waders to get to, and that it was all water, and nobody thought that was correct. And now they got down all the trees of it, and it's one continuous swamp area that will take, no telling what field. My concern on this project is it's right next to the swamp area and the drainage. I'd like to see the drainage study for this. Do you have the drainage?
Would you like to
study?
address that?
Because I don't think I had it in my.
If I may?
Yes.
Good evening, Melissa Ward with Saxon LaSure for the applicant.
Melissa, you have been sworn, right?
I have been sworn in.
Okay.
I do have the drainage plans.
David's done it.
Okay. I have a big set. If you'd like to take a look at it.
You have your engineer?
The big plans, would you like to look at them?
You have a large
Yeah. And I may have to give you the stats. I put some on the board for you. And that may be also what you're looking for. Simply PUD in 1996 was approved, as staff mentioned. And this is the parcel that has the 11 units on it. This is the PUD itself. This is the parcel. I'll bring it close. So that's the PUD. Well, technically it sits this way. Yeah. Okay. So this is the site. I apologize for being so far from the mic. If you need this, I can just leave it with you. That's the site. 11 units. Just the remainder.
plan. I think that's what Susan was for.
Okay. Okay. And that's in that second. Okay.
All I'm saying is, it is total swampland all around. And with the rains we've had. Now, with all the flooding that we've had, the last piece of property next to you that we approved is total underwater. They cannot get, and that's what I said when it started. They said, oh no, it's just gonna be water right here in the front. And that's not what happened. And
I can understand your concern, Commissioner.
Let me ask you.
Sure.
In the 4.0 drainage plan, the feet that are shown in elevations, these are all proposed elevations as to how it's supposed to be built out, isn't that correct?
Finished floor.
So what they got here is it goes to 24 feet. The minimum elevation above feet is 24.67 for ground before slab. And then they go to as low as 24 on the back swales. And then it swales down. It doesn't, I don't know that, I'm not an engineer, and I'm sure our engineers have looked at it, but it doesn't seem to have enough fall, but there's a lot of absorption, retention, and detention at the same time in there, and that's part of the design. The big thing will be if this land right here is burned up enough to keep it on the project.
Which land, if I may?
Yeah, that would be the west, or south. It would be the west side and, of course, the east side, same thing. Whether it is properly burned up between there and the rest of the adjacent properties, so that it's not draining off onto the park next door.
Right.
And it doesn't give an elevation of the land burned up between. I'm sure our engineers will look at it, and that's her concern, and mine too.
Right. Absolutely. And the design is so that they would retain, that they would drain into the subdivision here on the outer edges behind the Walton around the cul-de-sac. And also as we build the roads up there, they're going to be we're going to be pulling off the roads into the subdivision as well.
Yeah, and where it drains out to the front and driveways and stuff, you have curb cuts for like stormwater?
Yeah.
Or
And
is
there's
it just
going to,
curb?
there's a curb, there's a pond at this end, there's 2 ponds at this end to pull that in.
I see where they have retention into them, whether that's just it's just on top of the curb, there's no below storm sewer. It's just curb drainage to there.
There is a piping that goes down the road to absorb more water as it comes into it as necessary. They deepen the ponds and they pull the piping that comes down through here.
Okay.
They've extended the piping to accommodate for a bigger storm event.
I'm just saying, it was one of my concerns.
Okay. Did that answer your question, Ms. Harris?
She's
just
answered my question. Do
Okay.
I think it will drain? No.
Okay.
Do I think it's swampland? But she's answered my
Yeah.
question.
Do you have a question, real quick?
Yeah, I'm confused as to where she's talking about swampland. I live in that area.
Okay, we'll get the public and ask a question in just a minute, okay?
So this is 11 units remaining from the PUD. To answer part of your question, the original PUD was coastal center when it was originally approved. And the density and intensities were approved in 1996 and had not expired. What is being approved this evening is the technical on the same subdivision that was approved in 2006 as a minor, because I believe the policy has been updated.
You're telling me that 2006 Coastal Center, you didn't provide it, they didn't provide a compatibility analysis?
Wasn't required, it was coastal
So,
center.
What Max said that it was already.
No, what he said
there
was,
is one.
well, what he said, and I appreciate your input, but what he's saying is that the PUD is already approved and hasn't expired, it's that technical expired.
Okay. I got it. But the land use changed since subsequently, right?
They have subsequently changed the land use.
And subsequently, the land use is currently infill and requires a compatibility analysis.
But the PUD is not changing at all. In fact, it's reduced intensity.
I'm not aware of judge and jury, I'm just saying if somebody finds a chink in your armor, it's probably going to be right there.
Any other questions? Any other questions for the applicant?
Thank you.
Gentleman has your hand up.
Yeah. Again,
If you would please approach the, yeah. Before you get started, have you been sworn in to testify?
I'm sorry?
Have you been sworn to testify?
No.
Okay.
Just
Mr.
raise your
Davis?
right hand if you would, sir. Do you solemnly swear?
Oh,
or
right
affirm-
hand. Okay.
My other right. Hey, you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give before this board will be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
And please state your name. for the-
Leon Brown. Need an
Okay, what-
address?
No, what is your question?
My question is, I'm confused as to Mrs. Harris's, where she is talking about low swampland. I live in that area, and I don't know of any swampland there.
Do you know where they've knocked down all the trees on? a
The
road
new
that
ones?
goes from- Huh?
The new ones are, yeah. Is that that's the one, swampland you're talking about? Now, should that be covered by the Department of Environmental Protection Agency?
I don't know, it doesn't drain, and we approved it to be built on it, and it's nothing but
Okay.
water from one
Okay.
street to the other.
Right,
Whole
they're
lot.
filling it
It's
right
nothing
now.
but water.
Yeah.
And it's not draining anywhere. It wasn't draining before we approved it, and it's not draining now. And the apartments across the way from it are
Mhm.
higher, and their driveway slopes right to it. So
I
I made
see.
a point to go out there during the last rain.
Mhm.
And the water is collecting from both sides of
Mhm.
the T, rushing down the driveway, just like I said it would do, across the street and into so they can't get it dried out.
Yeah, they're
Okay.
not going to be able to get rid of the
Does
water.
that answer your question?
You are
So
correct there, yes.
I'm concerned that this property is right by that.
Yeah, I was thinking that you was on the other side of the road there, but.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. And sir, have you been sworn to testify?
No.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Sir, would you please raise your right hand? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give before this board will be the truth?
Yes, it will.
And what was your
Robert
name?
Doty,
Okay.
Would you spell your last name, please?
D-O-T-Y. I own the property on the east side of this project for a major portion of it. And a couple questions that I just need to ask. The concurrency was done when? When was that study done?
There was a concurrency study done with this submittal, so it's current with this submittal, the concurrency study. Transportation concurrency, I'm assuming you're talking about.
Yeah, because that's what I was going to.
That's right, yeah. Proportional.
So with that, what the date on
Address
that?
your questions up here, and we'll get them answered for you.
Okay, the question I had on is that I've lived off a Holiday Road for 22 years, and we're approving, this is an 11 unit, but right next to it, and your next agenda is another 20 units. It's all concurrent, it's all the same deal. What the effect has on Holiday Road, because that is just a major thoroughfare. We don't even have sidewalks, we don't have transportation for pedestrians down that road. And it's just a major concern for me on the traffic amount that's going to be loaded onto that road from, and I just want to know what the ideas are. It says concurrency, but it seems like that was an old study, not something that was done.
I think the maid services will have to put their action on the back of bachelor's button when that opens up, huh?
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's going to open up to any direction. It all filters out to Holiday Road.
Okay.
So my concerns are the traffic on the deal, and again, drainage, because,
This project makes more sense at 11.
pardon me?
Yeah, I said this project makes more sense at 11 for its size. The next one at 20 is another.
Well, it's, I don't mind the density on the whole thing. It's just that whether the road conditions are going to be able to support it.
Okay.
That's all.
When was the traffic concurrency done? What date?
I did misspeak on this project. This is part of the PUD original approval. That's when the traffic was approved for this project. I did misspeak on that. It's the next project where the concurrency analysis is today. This one's already locked in with the final order and approval of the PUD. I do apologize.
Okay.
And that was what year?
96.
96, the PUD was approved. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, we'll close the public portion of the hearing. Do we have a motion?
I move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion amongst the board? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. On to item number 6.
Item number 6 is Hidden Palm subdivision. This is a major development order application that was submitted by Saks LeSueur. It's requesting the approval of a 20-lot, single-family subdivision on 2.5 acres with a future land use of neighborhood infill. The project is located on the south side of Hatchoo Road, 300 feet west of South Holiday Road. This project is immediately north of the previously discussed project that was part of the Siboney Phase 2 PUD. However, this project was not included in the original PUD boundaries, but it is essentially an extension of the previous project. We did review this one as a major development order. It did include the compatibility analysis, and unless other evidence is presented to the contrary, this proposed project will meet the requirements of the Walton County Comprehensive Plan and Land Development Code with the following conditions. Again, we have the environmental condition about the MPDS stormwater being submitted to them when they submit to DEP. This one also is requesting the sidewalk buyout fee for one side of the residential proposed street. There will also be the recreational lands buyout fee of 6% of the value of the land to be platted at the time of platting. This project also had a proportionate fair share contribution that was calculated associated with the project. And those are all the conditions on this one.
Yes, sir.
Tim,
Yes, sir.
a couple of things. Who approved and reviewed the compatibility analysis in conjunction with this project?
I would have been the review planner on the compatibility analysis, and
And did the planning director specifically approve this compatibility analysis? Or-
well, we're bringing the project forward to be heard by the planning commission. I mean, we haven't officially approved it. I would leave that to the board's discretion to determine compatibility.
Regarding that,
Mhm.
does this compatibility analysis have exhibits to it? I mean, they're not marked on my, there are 2 pages. It looks like it's a page 4 compatibility analysis, and then there are 2 pages right after it, or excuse me, maybe 3, that show maps and a graphic scale in more vast, but they're not titled anything in there, and there's nothing written on, there's a circle, a quarter-mile radius on one. Well, my concerns are regarding all this, is there's no density table in conjunction with these exhibits that shows that it's actually compatibility in a density format. What we have in that area, I would assume, without looking at a table that would actually show the densities in the projects that are inside the circle on page 2 of what I think are exhibits to this, but not so far, are that there may be enough, and I stress the word may, be enough density in that area to support this claim. Without that data, I can't support this, because that's the maximum at 8 units an acre. And if you can't show me that within a quarter mile, you come 8 or 5, they're asking for 5 an acre on, or a little less, right at 5 an acre on the piece that we just suggested to move forward, recommended to move forward. And that's stretching it for me without, and I think to the BCC when it gets there, if you can't support your compatibility other than by 4 pages of words and no technical data that shows that there are those numbers that are supporting there, like whatever the condos that are on there. I see a couple that say 16 units an acre, 5 units an acre, et cetera, and not having my handheld computer GPS Texas Instruments in my hand to calculate the densities in, and there are different graphic scales than the one with the circle on it that shows the quarter mile. Without having a table that goes to those 2, I can't support the maximum at 8 units an acre without density, without proof. And that's just my opinion, commissioners.
Okay.
Understood. I guess my response to that would be is the compatibility analysis meets the requirements outlined in the Land Development Code in terms of it's asked that you describe the area to be compatible, and there's no specific measures of, so that would be my response from staff.
When you set up the infill, business infill parcel, the board of directors and us in recommendation have the opportunity to go 4, 6, or 8, or 5, or any number we choose in between there, based on the proof that we see in a compatibility analysis to go forward in that. I'm not seeing that to go to the maximum personally. I mean, it may hit the letter of the law to me, but when you're asking for the maximum, you might want to go to the maximum and supplying the data that may help me make that decision. I can't speak for the rest of the commissioners. But just because somebody meets the minimum requirement of what the ordinance says, doesn't mean that meeting the minimum requirement of the ordinance gives you the maximum allowable density in the ordinance to me.
Understood.
That's just my comments.
Okay. Anything else for staff? Petitioner?
Good evening, Melissa Ward with Saxon LaSour for the applicant. This is a proposed 20-lot subdivision on 2 parcels, and the land use category is neighborhood infill. Those are very good comments to the compatibility analysis, and I think that if that is the comment and that's the concern, do you want me to produce a new one to present at the, or is this a request then to move it forward, providing an updated compatibility analysis? The stormwater is met, the traffic is met, there is going to be a prop fair share requirement. The improvements to the road are not being considered as part of that fair share calculation, and so we're just wondering, what at this point, if there's something that can the applicant can agree to move it forward.
I can't speak for the rest of the commissioners, but for my safety of mine and the job that I was asked to do here, to be a representative for, the county and the public at the same time, to make sure that, we're planning and setting forward, we're recommending or denying or not recommending to the BCC certain things. And with you not providing a table in there that shows the density, average density, there's nowhere in here that you put it in writing where you said the average density within a quarter-mile radius of this thing is 7.125 or 8.444. There's nothing in here that I can hang my hat on to give you the maximum density that can be, that can't be refuted or that can't be supported.
And I apologize for that. What in this particular application, this Hidden Palms PUD came forward in 2004, 2005, went to the BCC as a PUD, and they originally submitted a compatibility analysis. It was a much more intense PUD. There was retail in it, and there were townhomes and things like that. We revised that compatibility analysis in order to get this development order, I won't say reissued, to get it issued at this date. By condensing the information and removing the retail capacity and removing the townhomes and all the other things. This is all based on it being severely reduced in intensity and density down to just what it is today. So again, I apologize for not putting in a data table or that significant information. I mean, we had put in what the neighboring developments were doing, but I can see your point that it needs to have more substantial, meaty data tables to make things more clear. But we do feel like it meets that criteria, and if it's what we need, if we need to revise it between now and the next meeting, we would, would be more than happy to do so.
Yeah. So the planning department do the compatibility study and have it for the next meeting and have it to us before.
To come back to the planning commission?
Planning.
I've had to do it before, and it's a lot of work. I mean, but if you want your project to go forward at this kind of density, my suggestion is that you do that kind of work, because right now it's real iffy to say, why should you give the maximum when on top of Ms. Harris's comments on the other parcel and what little bit of testimony heard from the public about the area over there, it's pretty dense, and there's going to be a lot of traffic. And if you're adding to both, you're adding fuel to the stormwater runoff, you're adding fuel to the traffic and currency problems that are potentials for over there. And if you don't have something to hang your head on and support it, I can't. To me, I don't know about the rest of the commission, at 8 units an acre. Not that it won't show that if I have a data table to show that, but nobody printed anything in here, and it's testifying under oath that that's what those numbers say. So, to me, I apologize for being long.
That's all right.
So I would ask, and I feel like I should get it on the record, I would ask that you be able to approve it contingent to that and let the BCC make that decision on the compatibility analysis. I would be remiss to my client if I didn't go ahead and ask for that. That you approve it to move to the BCC contingent upon an updated compatibility analysis being submitted.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, come on up.
I have the property right next to this
Go ahead and
project.
state your name again where she can.
Leon Brown. I have the project right next to this, property right next to this, and I would like to know the minimum and the maximum size buildings that would be put on this thing, and would they be rental houses, or would they be, what type of structure are we talking about here?
These are single-family residences, right?
Single-family detached
Yeah.
homes. They are not intended at this time to be rental units of any kind. They are not to exceed more than a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house, 1 story, and 2 parking spaces.
Yeah.
We do have another project which is similar to this that we have some interest in. And the parking is a very tremendous problem here. I don't know whether that's been considered or not.
Okay. You want to go ahead and address that where everybody can hear you?
I will, and just for the record, this is the footprint of the building. To address Mr. Brown's question.
Yes.
They're single-family detached homes, one-story, three-bedroom, two-bath type home with two-bedroom, or two-car parking spaces on each lot.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other public questions, public comments? Okay, sir, we're going to go ahead and continue with the meeting. You can talk to her about that when we get done, okay? There's no other public comments. Do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a suggestion, and maybe I need to do it in form of a motion, that it come back to us with a compatibility study at a date certain. And we postpone this until we get the compatibility study. I don't think we ought to be sending stuff up to the board that we don't have everything for.
Okay,
That's
is
my opinion.
that a motion?
On a recommendation. I understand the difference, but we could make it
I think when we send something to the county commission, it ought to be, when we approve it, it shouldn't be based on getting conditions. I think it ought to be done here, and if it's, the compatibility study comes back wrong, it's gonna come back to us. I just think we need to have all the i's dotted and the t's crossed before we send it to the county commission.
Okay.
And-
Is that a motion?
Okay, yes.
We have a second for that motion.
I'll second that for discussion.
You need to get what that motion is, don't you?
Just 1 second, let me catch up. So make a motion to continue this to the.
To a date certain of her choice.
March 12th.
Well, if she can get the compatibility study done by then. Can you have it by March 12th? Then my motion is to continue this to March 12th so that we can see the compatibility study before we send it up to the BCC.
And bring back a updated liability analysis.
Okay, we have a motion
And David, second.
I second.
and a second. Any other discussion from the board?
Just, I got it, whichever way it goes, I feel more strongly towards Susan's motion than I would with conditions. Although I could support one with conditions as well, but I feel more strongly in support of her motion.
I just don't think 30 days is gonna make that big a difference. And we ought to see the compatibility study. I've been
Okay.
out there, I know what's out there, but none of y'all have, and I think you need to see it.
Okay. All right. All in favor, say aye. That's in favor of the motion, right? Okay. All opposed to the motion. We'll make sure we got that right. Nobody's opposed to the motion? Carries? All ayes. And that is the last item on the agenda, so we will stand adjourned.
Take care.
Have a good day.